So today we are here to fly this guy. So the quad that I'm gonna fly now is the one I lost, like up in a concrete beam. So the whole story there is, yeah, I got it back, right? And basically after just a little bit of cleaning off and stuff, it still worked. So I, test armed it, spun the motors up and all that kind of stuff, and it was fine. I think I had to replace motor bell, FPV cam lens that I smashed, and that was it. It seemed to work good. Tested the video feed, tested the motors, response, all seemed fine. There was a little bit of rust on the guy, so on the bottom the motor screws had started to rust a bit, and that rust was contaminating the motor bearings a little bit. I took the motors apart as well and kind of checked them out, and I found that some of the, I don't know what you call it, the armature or whatever, there's a little rust on there. Cleaned it out as best I can. Basically, I haven't changed much on this thing at all, except a lens and a motor bell though. So I'm just gonna fly this dude. it's just, I'm super stoked to have gotten it back. I really got to thank the dudes who got it back. So I didn't get it back. It was actually a friend of mine. It was Matt Too Good who got it back. So he like came out with this idea of welding these like steel poles together because it was really high up. So a normal pole wouldn't reach it. And it was wedged in rebar, so it was a really hairy thing to get out. Like the drone picking thing didn't work because you couldn't get into the rebar. And there was just nothing really high enough to reach that crossbeam from the ground. So, you know, he custom made a series of metal poles, hauled them out to the spot. Because I was at work, and I was like, I got to work, and I got to focus on work. I would have been happy to show up after work and stuff, but he just like, you know, switched on one day. He's like, I'm going to do it. And he went, and he freaking, so him and one other dude went out there. I think maybe two other dudes went out there with like this ladder, right? So they wedged the ladder into the ground. This is me retelling it how they told it to me. So they wedged the ladder in the ground at like whatever angle, and you got one guy holding that, and the other two guys like laid the pole on top of it and then tried to poke up at the quad kind of like that, or they tried to like rest the pole on top of the beam to poke at the quad. The trick is it's so high that like the beam, the steel beam, like when it's vertical, it's all like flexing this way and that way. So you're trying to control it from the ground, and it's like, whoop, whoop. And then when it reaches a certain point, it's like, whoa, it wants to like just fall over. So I don't know how the hell they did it, man, but they did it basically using muscle power and some good old-fashioned engineering. So this quad owes its life to those dudes, and I'm hugely thankful because like, one thing I really love about my particular approach to flying, right, is like I don't always have the newest gear and all that. Yeah, everyone, it's obvious if you read through my stuff. Like my setups are like a year old, but what I like doing is kind of just flying as much as I can and putting with like minimal maintenance and minimal expenditure on new stuff. So I'm kind of like Mr. Anti-hype train or whatever. I try to do the least I can to get the most flying, you could say. Like I'll spend money where I think it matters, you know, like the Crossfire, for example. I spend the money for that versus the R9, duh, no-brainer. You know, I'll put good components on it, but my expectation is that that stuff's going to last me a good long time, and I'll be able to repair it like super easily and not for that much of a cost. I break arms on the Roosters a lot. Not a lot, it's relative, right? Maybe once a month. I'll snap an arm here or there. You know, I'll bend up motor bells. That's mostly because I'm flying around concrete. Concrete will just pound your quads. Concrete and metal, both those things will just hammer the crap out of your gear. Like, even the mildest crash on concrete will probably bend a motor shaft or something, and you'll get a vibration in that motor, and that's just the way it is. If you expect to fly bandos and concrete spots and all that, you better expect you're going to be putting some hardcore like wear and tear in your stuff. And you know, the best thing is to plan for that, right? Like think about, all right, so when stuff breaks, where am I getting new parts? Like new parts for my frame, or like in particular I find it's the motors that take the hits, I guess because they're out near the extremities. Nothing too crazy in my case, but just a lot of motor bells. And so like I can get motor bells for my motors super easy, which is great. They're $11 a pop. So I slap on a bell and it's good to go. And, you know, did it with the arms. I spend like maybe $5 an arm. So I'll just order like, you know, 6 arms or 8 arms. And that does me for like pretty much a year. No problem. Motor bells, maybe I've gone through like quite a few actually. I've gone through maybe 20 and stuff. It's a balance. I try to balance how messed up my motors are with smoothness. So as long as my quad flies good, I kind of won't replace a motor bell, but when I will replace it is when I think it's causing maybe like too much vibration, or maybe it's causing enough vibration that it's like going to be damaging other stuff, or it's drawing more amps or whatever. Then I'll swap that sucker out. Obviously, if I see vibration in the quad, I swap the bell out. I haven't even had to change bearings, to be perfectly honest. I have spare bearings, but I haven't bothered to swap them through. Just haven't had to, really. Apart from that, it's just keeping the thing clean, right? Like, my maintenance routine involves, you know, I'll take the battery plate, like, yeah, my maintenance is pretty easy. I'll take off this sucker, clean all inside, you know, I'll re-stick stuff as it needs to be restuck in terms of the VTX. Maybe I'll clean under the flight controller stack, check all the plugs, I do pop all my motors off all the time, and I clean inside because I fly in sand. There's a shit ton of sand around. You know, I'll clean as best I can. I use isopropyl alcohol to clean these guys. It works pretty good at getting gunk off and dust out. And that's it. Pop the bells on, pop the plate on, and good to go, you know. That's all I've really had to do. So it's kind of phenomenal that I've managed to maintain this style of flying for like a year. And I've really enjoyed it. The flying's been great. And it's been a huge non-pain in the ass keeping up in the air. That's kind of my thing. I like to know that my thing is that, you know, when the weekend comes around, I want to go out and fly, and I want to know that I'm ready to fly, and I don't have to do any acrobatics or builds or crazy stuff. I just want to be ready, charge the packs up, and pack the bag, and out I go. I prefer to spend more time, like, figuring out where I'm going to fly, or stuff like that, or checking out spots, maybe. Just not into, like, crazy last-minute maintenance, last-minute rebuilds, last-minute this or that. I'll take an evening during the week. I'll maintain both my quads. I'll spend another, you know, evening or something just charging all the lipos up all nice and slow. You know, just take my time. It's really hassle-free. And then when the weekend comes, pack up the bag, out the door. Yeah, and I'm super happy. It's like a really chilled-out way to do it. I don't really see any reason to change my setup either. So I don't know. Maybe I'll be flying this same gear for another, like, year. For all I know. Anyways, that's my cue to start flying and stop talking. So, let's see if this guy flies, man. If it does, that would be super awesome.